Welcome to Rock and Roll Confessional. That's Rita Wilde in the background laughing at me for some strange thing we talked about.
Life. Yeah, just life, not at you, buddy. And you are CWS.
That's right. I am. Hey, I was wondering, do you remember where you were when you originally discovered MTV?
Yeah, I think I talked about it in the interview, which was
I didn't listen to
actually
it.
Chicago. Perfect. Chicago Navy Pier, and it was like, I want this, and then it's like, well, what is it? It's like MTV. Well, I want my MTV, and it's like, well, it comes here. What's a cable company? You know, it's like that didn't really exist. I mean, I had HBO, but what you call your what? How
so
do you do
confusing.
This? I was going to ask you: is there one video that no matter what, you'll still stop and see and watch the whole way through?
You know, okay. So first off, I have to be on. I totally know MTV. I know all the VJs. And I watched it, but I didn't watch it religiously. And one of the reasons, because I kind of felt like that videos might taint my mind's expectation of what the song was about. And a lot of times the videos really had nothing to do. They were just videos. They didn't have anything to do with it. But so I didn't. Plus, I couldn't afford cable. I was in college when it happened. I remember all the, like one giant TV in each dorm, and people started gathering around watching them and watching religiously and then talking about it. But so to answer your question, was it Sledgehammer from Peter Gabriel that was just one of those crazy ones, animated and stuff?
Yeah. For me, Van Halen, Jump. Yeah. It just makes me happy when I watch that. You know, it's just like, I mean, I don't, sort it out, but if it's on a video channel or something or just comes on, it's like, oh, watch that, man. I'll watch that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, nowadays, if one comes up, a lot of times I didn't see it. And I'm like, oh, that's what it was. And, I might stop down to see something I never saw. So
the reason we're talking about MTV is because on August 1st, MTV turns 40 years old. It's hard to believe. I mean, it's changed. It's like nothing like it was.
There's no V. There's no V anymore. There's no M or V, really. It's just T.
But I mean, it had a monumental impact on everybody, on the industry and so forth. And it started with 5 VJs. And today, Nina Blackwood, original VJ, is our guest. In 1981, Nina was chosen as one of the cable network's VJs, and for 5+ years, she hosted the beginning of video music television, along with several other people that we knew, like we worked with J.J. Jackson and a lot of the other people we've, come to know throughout the years. Nina tells us how she auditioned for the job, her favorite and not so favorite interviews, and how MTV began.
So we were able to catch Nina by phone from her home in Maine, and here we go with the interview with Nina Blackwood.
Rita, can you hear me?
I can absolutely hear you. Absolutely.
Yay.
How you doing, girl?
It is so great to hear your voice because, I don't live in L.A. anymore, so I don't get to hear you.
Well, thank you. That's so kind. And I was surprised that you're living in Maine. That's how wonderful is that?
Yeah, it is. Oh. There are elements, obviously, I miss about living out there. I lived out there longer than anywhere else. So, but I moved here for a reason. I moved here to be among nature. So I certainly can't complain, and I hate the heat. So that was a primary.
But you must love the cold, though, right?
I love winter. Oh. That was part of it. I really, really missed the Four Seasons, and diehard Angelinos. Well, we have Four Seasons. Well, no. I spent too many Christmases where it was too hot to wear even a sweater, so no. Yeah. Anyhow, so how are you?
Doing good. So I'm so excited that you will do this, and we'll talk about all sorts of different things.
Okay.
And just promote you and the legend that you are, and it'll just be fun. We'll just have a conversation.
Well, see, like I told you when I wrote to you, and this is not fawning. I don't do that. I don't say something I don't mean. But you really are a legend. I think myself, yeah, I did, part of MTV. But as far as a legendary radio person, that's you. Seriously.
Well, thank you.
Seriously. I mean, yeah.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
No, it's not kind. It's true. And don't argue with me.
Okay, I won't.
Both of you are legends in your own right. That's how I look at it.
That's right. In our own mind. Yeah.
And I'm blessed to be working with Rita, and it's an honor. And I think we met basically the same time at KLOS in the early '80s, and have basically worked together almost all the way up to now. Well, now we're working together even more, right, Rita?
That's right. Yeah, now CW was our promotion person at KLOS, so, he was always one that made me laugh, and, it's like, okay, let's, he wanted to do a podcast, he wanted just me to host it, and it's like, no, I'm not that comfortable doing that, I said, well, why don't you host it with me, because you at least make me laugh, and it took him a while, but he said, okay.
I know what you mean about, like, the podcast. We're doing Mark Goodman, Alan Hunter, and myself through SiriusXM. They wanted us to do, I Want My 80s podcast. And I don't know what it is about that format. I've done, all the stuff, I mean, most of my life. And I don't know, it just threw me at first. I'm used to it now, but I don't know what it is about the podcast thing, maybe the name of it, podcast. I don't know. Maybe that's...
Let's change it to podcast or something like Catcast.
Yeah, it's just a weird... and it's not. It's really no different than us doing radio. Certainly, if you're using Zoom, not that much different than TV, but there's something that really threw me about it. It took me a while to get into the groove with those guys, doing the podcast. So, anyhow, but I was very happy. Different, when you contacted me, it's like, yippee,
Oh, well, thank you so much. That means a lot to us, and don't want to waste your time here because we know that you're busy. And even if you're just busy going outside and looking at animals, it's busy.
I just was, actually. I had a lunch and I had my timer set so that I wouldn't, get, wafted away by nature. And I was watching, I was really worried about my woodchuck. I hadn't seen my woodchuck, for a couple of months. And he was, or she, I'm not sure, was out there. And it's just watching this innocent creature, eating clover and, just walking around. I walked past him, and she didn't get scared until the very last minute. I was like, oh, yay. So yeah, even if it's that's important.
It's small rewards, and I think that, the older we get, we look for those things because we've all had this, like amazing career and it's still going on but it's so important that you're able to step back and say, I'm grateful, I am so blessed, and I can enjoy just watching a chipmunk,
You're absolutely on the money, and that is why I moved, to a rural area. Exactly the reason I did. Because it's been pretty much all my life doing what you and I both do. And I remember, it just being too hot and being stuck on the 405. And I just went, I keep dreaming of being, in nature. I want to do it. And with the advent of our technology, I checked with my bosses at the various places that I work, and they said, we don't care. As long as you can get us our shows, you can live anywhere. And, that was the first requirement with the realtor. I said, it's got to be on high-speed internet. That's the only thing. I couldn't move as far into, like, the off-the-grid that I may may have dreamt of, but
right.
it's a good combination. I have the best of both worlds, thank God, knocking on my table.
Yes, exactly. Well,
so do you do your show from your house, Nina?
Yes. Yeah, which is the first time when I did move here. The very first day that I was doing my shows, I heat my house with a wood stove. That's how the whole thing's heated. And so my studio is on the bottom floor, which is partially on one end. You can walk out, but then it's built into like rock where my studio is. So here I am, starting my show, that's going up in satellite and very high tech, to get that. But to the left of me is my wood stove cranking away. It was like, wow, it's pretty dichotomy.
That's a serious show, right? Is it the big 80s?
Yeah, it's the big 80s on 8th. That's the serious show. And that was the one I happened to be doing when, I had that thought. That was the first show up and running. And then I have my other, the syndicated shows through United Stations Radio Networks.
People can catch that online, and no matter where they're at, they can hear you online on the United Radio Stations network, right?
United Stations Radio Networks, yeah.
United
Absolutely
Stations.
80s and New Wave Nation.
Excellent. Great. Well, I'm so happy to hear that, you're keeping busy and enjoying life. Those are two of the most important things. And so we have a whole list of things and topics that we want to talk to. And, of course, one of them would be the fact that you were a significant part of a worldwide event that changed how we listened to, reacted, and interacted with music. I mean, you can't take that away from you. And no matter what MTV is today, people that I know remember it from, the first 5 years.
Yeah. And it's I think it's unfortunate the way that they went. I think it's kind of blasphemous that they call themselves MTV still, but that's the negative part. Yeah, the beginning was absolutely amazing, and I can't believe that August 1st will be our 40th anniversary. That is incomprehensible. But people who weren't around at that time don't realize that cable was actually in its infancy. I mean, now cable almost is kind of considered old-fashioned with all the stuff with the internet and streaming. But at that time, I mean, there weren't, you had maybe some public access wacko channels, Ugly George, notoriously in New York. But, so we were really growing with cable. And one of the things that MTV inadvertently did is help to grow that because it wasn't on everywhere because not everybody had cable TV. Cable TV came about to serve, ironically, rural areas. And that whole campaign, those of us that were around at that time, I Want My MTV, actually was for the kids watching network TV, so they would call their cable operator and go, I want my MTV. And then, consequently, the parents would have to cough up the dough, to get a subscription to cable, which was kind of funny.
I remember I was somewhere in Chicago. I was on Navy Pier. I think it was like Summerfest or something like that. This was 81, 82, and walking around and somebody's demonstrating, and it's like, yeah, I want that. Okay, well you need cable, and it's like, what's cable?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's like it didn't really exist altogether, No,
that's the weird thing, and it's almost impossible for young kids especially, to understand that there was a time like that. I mean, it's like us looking back and reading about before radio, for crying out loud, when player pianos were like the form of entertainment. It's kind of that way, but as far as the music industry, And I know you remember it well. It was kind of in the doldrums in the late 70s. We had the disco, we had the, kind of overbloated, and I don't say that critically because I happen to like prog rock, but, you had the overbloated bands like that. You had punk was starting to come about, but punk wasn't a moneymaker, and so it was a little bit of a precarious time. So by 81, when MTV started, it really gave the music industry a shot in the arm.
Well, it also, it was a great new way to look at things, but when you guys first started, there weren't a lot of videos made because there was no reason to have them. So
that's right.
It must have been really hard, at least for the programming department, to have run all those videos that, you didn't have that many, so they had to have repeated them quite a bit.
Oh, they did, and the number one repetition was Rod Stewart. It could have been called the Rod Stewart Channel. Yeah, because the videos, especially in America, there were very few artists making videos. They were already being made in Europe as a promotional device, not on television, but, the record companies you send them around so people would know who the artists were. And that's actually what in turn John Lack and Bob Pittman kind of thought, well, we could use these and make a whole channel out of it. But as far as MTV itself, I was living in LA, and when I took the job, my friends are going like, oh yeah, she went to some music show somewhere. It was like, it's some cable thing. We don't know what it is. It's true.
But it didn't take long to get known.
No. Little by little. The first year, we didn't make, I'm not talking about the talent, I'm talking about the channel, didn't make money for a good several years, because like advertisers, they didn't know what this was. They weren't going to spend a bunch of money on this thing. And then little by little, they realized the power that it was starting to get, and so we got advertisers. And then we got more subscribers, and one thing led to another. Then the artists, actually the record labels, came on board and said, hey, this is a great way to promote our artists. And then, in your contract, depending on how much they wanted to invest in you, you had to make a video. It either came out of your pocket or, if they thought you were going to be big, then they'd help out with the budget for the videos.
So how did you get the job, Nina? I got to believe there was a lot of people that would be, vibing for this job. And so how did you apply, and how did you know you got it? How'd that whole process work?
Well, I was in L.A., as I mentioned, and I'm a harpist, a string harpist. I'm a musician. So, I was playing that was what I always call it, my day gig, but it was at night. So I was playing 6-7 nights a week, and I've also, acted since a little girl. So I was out there, with an agent and getting, doing the audition thing, studying at Lee Strasberg. But then also, my manager knew. Well, it was a series of people actually. I was doing like some side projects. And they came about in different ways. There were 3 distinct ones that I was kind of functioning as like a what would be later called a VJ, a host with a music program. And one in particular was with this guy, Michael Seinhardt, who was like way ahead of his time. He had all this video gear, and he was showing videos. He had access to videos. I remember he had Blondie videos, Lena Lovitch, and some other European ones, and he would take him around to different clubs. Rita, did you grow up in L.A.?
No, I did not. I moved here when I was like 13, so yeah.
Were you
Army
there?
Brat.
Were you there for the late 70s, like for the punk scene?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes,
you know what we're talking about. Chinatown.
Yeah, exactly.
And he'd have me do like, Man on the Street.
Oh, yeah.
Interviews at Chinatown, and, it was Punk was the name of our so-called TV show, and I had a phony tattoo that said Punk on my arm, with my shirt rolled up. and And, there's a picture of me with this rubber knife, like it's a real knife, they're in this tough pose, that's somewhere. I should dig that out, actually, when people ask me.
That would be funny, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't mess with me now. Just thought of that. But, so anyway, I know it's a long story, but cutting to the chase. I read, I was always on top of Billboard magazine. I really loved reading it, and I was reading it one morning, sitting outside in the LA sun, and there was an article that this 24-hour music channel was looking for hosts and hostesses that knew music and knew about the music industry, and I thought, that's me. So sent the resume, the 8x10. They came out and did an audition with several people downtown Hollywood, actually on Hollywood Boulevard, and it went fine. Read the music news, whatever. Then they came back and they did another one, and this time one of the producers pretended to be a very obnoxious Billy Joel. Like, you'd ask, like, Rita, your nightmare interview when you ask somebody a question and they go, yeah, no,
yeah.
And he was just obnoxious.
Yeah.
Got it.
How it is. Well, just like bored, like, oh, yeah. And he pretended to be that. And I don't know why, but I was able to handle it. So, a couple of months went by, and I'm going, and this is very unlike me at auditions. I'm usually the one going, oh, you should hire that person, not me, right? It's rare that I think that I'm the top of the heap. Very rare. But for this one, somehow, I was saying, really, in the whole country, who else was already kind of doing something like this? What would they want? If they didn't want me, which is, like I said, I'm not an egotistical person at all. So it was kind of like, but really, what would they be looking for? So called them up, and basically they said they wanted me, they were going to be in contact with me. They wanted me to fly to New York, meet with Bob Pittman, and, that was basically it. I went out I didn't know I was going to have to move to New York because it was Warner Amex satellite communication. So in my mind, satellite, you could do it in L.A. Never mentioned anything about moving to New York. And I often wonder if I would have even pursued it because I had only lived in L.A. for a couple of years. And I had my cats and, just starting to make headway and, getting my harp playing reviewed and all that kind of stuff. And so, they said that they wanted to hire me. They wanted me to move to New York. And I was like, move to New York. And, so I was a little leery of that. But they proceeded, Sue Steinberg and Morty, I call him, Robert Morton, took me around New York trying to impress me. And they took me to Tavern on the Green, this very beautiful restaurant in Central Park, to impress me of New York. And I proceeded to, seriously choke. I inhaled my piece of roll to the point of, I could die. One of the, like a real, and Morty, and they knew I was still thinking, I hadn't made my decision yet. Morty literally had to get up and give me Heimlich.
Oh, my God.
And, the role comes out, and I love this guy. Morty was David Letterman's sidekick, this producer on the first David Letterman show, if you watch that. That's Morty. Total New Yorker. He waits, everybody kind of calms down because the whole attention was focused on this girl that's going, in this lovely, restaurant. And, everything kind of gets back to normal. People start, and his timing was impeccable. He just looks at me with the New York accent and he says, you owe me. And that's when I said, I'll take the job. That's actually what I saved my life. Okay. You got it.
Yeah, that's worth it.
Yeah. Good trade-off.
That's a long story, but that's basically how I got the job.
Now, another LA person was J.J. Jackson. Did you know J.J. before you went back to New York?
No, I didn't know J.J. I met him in the lobby of the Berkshire Hotel where they put us both up. He came in. I was already in New York for a couple of weeks when JJ came. I thought at least a week, but I think it was 2 weeks. And they hired him, and immediately we bonded because both of us at that time were like die-hard L.A. people, L.A. And at that time, L.A. was so cool. I mean, you could drive on the 405. You didn't park on the 405. You know what I mean? It was awesome back then.
It was a great music scene at that time.
Yeah. And we both had our little sports cars that we left. He had a Jensen he used to pronounce it Interceptor. And I had an MG, and we were both lamenting, like right in the lobby of that hotel. Like, what do? We moved to New York. And then both of us ended up being completely in love with the city. He got the nickname Club Man for obvious reasons. He knew every club, after hours, the whole thing. And so we ended up actually just falling in love with New York. But at first we're the two Los Angeles people that are going like, geez. Yeah, JJ's wonderful. He was so well loved by so many people. And he
had that radio thing established. I remember, I didn't hear it, but Bob Coburn was telling me one time he back announced a song and said, "Yep, this is Brown Jackson with Jackson Brown."
Yes,
like,
yes, yeah.
That kind of stuff.
He just, he was great. He was the real deal, had more experience than all of us. He was the true veteran radio guy. I mean, he helped break Zeppelin when he worked at WBCN in Boston. Like you. I mean, I consider, somebody like JJ, somebody like you, not somebody like you, the real deal. Real deal radio people, not, fluffy stuff, real people doing real things with radio.
Do you think it would have been wise of MTV at the time to, it's all looking back, but, it got so scattered. And we grew up with radio that was like that. I mean, you could hear Sly and the Family Stone next to an edit of The Doors or something like that, along with, Tommy James and the Shondells or something like that. Do you think they would have been wise to, eventually go off into different segments, okay, this is MTV for your hip hop crowd and MTV for, or would it just been too fractionalized?
Well, at the beginning, I don't think that would have been possible because, as you said, CW, there weren't a lot of videos to even play,
Right.
So it was basically the category. If you have a video, you're on, That's really the only category. But I think, Rita, they started doing that. I left in 86, the second half of 86, and they kind of started doing that later on with Headbangers Ball and, MTV Raps. But I think those beginning days, we did have some specific programming that was starting, but we had the concerts, we had the countdowns, the the listeners or viewers, I should say, that were voting. But as far as the genres at the beginning, I don't think it really would have been possible. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe later on in the process, before they became,
the later part of the 80s,
Jersey Shore. Yeah.
Oh God. And then now they're back on again.
Are you kidding?
Oh, and they paid millions. They are paid millions. And it's
those are our heroes.
All right, I won't. There are people that like it, obviously, so I shouldn't badmouth.
Of course.
Like, what? I mean, I know people that live in Jersey, and they hate that show because it's like, that's not what Jersey is. They get highly offended,
Okay, everyone, time for a quick break. So you're feeling a little bit generous. You're feeling like you made a couple extra bucks in the last month, and you're saying, how can I support your podcast, CW and Rita? Well, this is it. It's your chance. Patreon.com is the way to do it. You can go and become a rock star, a roadie, or a groupie for as little as $1 a month. That's all it takes, $1. You can pledge more, but the minimum is $1 a month, and you can help support this podcast and keep it going. All you have to do, again, is go to patreon.com, or you can go to our website, rockandrollconfessional.rocks, and hit the support tab, and that way you can help us. All right, Rita Wild.
Just like that.
Rita Wild, trivia girl. What you got?
What you got? In 1987, at the MTV Video Music Awards, one artist broke the record and still holds the record for winning the most amounts of awards for the night. Who was the artist, and how many awards did they win?
So, here we go for our second half of our interview with Nina Blackwood.
So, Nina, you did a lot of interviews when you were on MTV. I'm wondering what maybe your favorite and your worst interviews were. You talked earlier about interviews where, the celebrity or musician would just say yes, no answers.
Okay, well, I'll start with the worst to get that over with, because it ended up actually being the worst interview I ever had in my career. So it was good that I got it over with early, kind of trial by fire. It was the first year, and Halloween, and Frank Zappa always did a show at, where the heck was it? The Palladium, I think. Yeah, the Palladium. And for some reason, they chose me, and it was live on TV, by the way. They chose me to be the host of it and the person to interview Frank, which, well, I don't know why I was chosen, because I would not have chosen me with him. I would have chosen JJ, to be quite honest. And from sound check on, that guy, and I'm not as shy as I used to be, but I used to be very, very shy. And although when I did my work, it was different, but I wasn't used to being confronted, other than the fake Billy Joel, by, and I'm sorry to people that like him, but just such an obnoxious personality that drew pleasure of making fun of me. And he could see, I was a novice, and he used it for his own entertainment, and it was really not cool. It was really not cool at all. And I've read, over the years since then, I'm not the only one he's done that to over the years, but it was really a nightmare for me. When I wasn't on camera, I would literally run to the ladies' room and hide. It was just, I was not, am I allowed to swear?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, the person that I am now would say, just go fuck yourself, Frank. Yeah. But back then, I didn't even swear. And I was it was horrible. He was just horrible. You can imagine. Yeah, I mean, you know how he was, or he could be.
Yeah.
So we got the worst one over. And as far as, and then any other one after that, I mean, I never had even close to anything like that. Never. Even artists that came in that were, so high they couldn't even sit in their seats. It was, and I won't name names, but
probably just about anybody at that time.
Yeah,
it could. Yeah, just take a dart and throw it. I'm bound to get somebody. But I had so many. I can't even say just one particular one. I really can't. And after MTV, I went to work as the music correspondent for Entertainment Tonight and Solid Gold, and I got to do some really great interviews for them as well. And one of them, it always comes to mind as one of my favorites because I was a little girl when they were big, and he's just such a legend, was going out to Malibu to interview Brian Wilson at his home. And he was still with Landy, with the doctor at that time, or the doctor was still with him, I should say. And he was like this sweet little boy in an adult body. And, I'm sitting in the living room with my crew, and he's up like on the landing of the stairs, and he has these two Hawaiian shirts, one in each arm. And he's going, Nina, which one should I wear? He was like, oh, God, he was like, oh, and that he's a genius. He has his demons, as they say, but he was just such a gentle, sweet soul. And, we did the interview, and then we went down to where his piano is, which was level with the beach. So it's like, you walk on the sand and go into his piano, and he sat there and, played some music. I really don't remember which songs he played, but, I'm sitting on the bench next to Brian Wilson playing, and then, walking on the beach with him. And it's like, I'm reflecting on, this girl, this little girl that grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, on the shore of Lake Erie, when all the little kids wanted to be surfers. We'd have bonfires pretending that Lake Erie was the Pacific, and hear all these, we did. I had a surfer cross, the whole deal, pre-Beatles, obviously. But and it was just, the whole thing was so sweet. Who better than to walk on a Malibu beach than with Brian Wilson? And then after the whole thing was over, oh, God bless him, he walked me out to the car and he asked me to go bowling with him.
Oh, my God.
That's beautiful.
I'm the worst bowler in the world.
Who cares?
You went, all right?
Yeah, but I didn't go.
You didn't go. Okay.
I am shy, believe it or not. So maybe that's what I recognize, in him as well. Although doing my job, it's different. It's like the hat goes on. I can't be the shy one when I'm interviewing somebody. But it was the way he said it. Would you like, this sweet, would you like to go bowling with me? It was like, God. So I guess that one always kind of comes when somebody asks me that. Although I've had so many other ones that I've loved, but that one just has this little special thing. You know what he's like.
Yeah.
And this big, sweet, sweet man, Oh.
And a genius. Absolutely.
A genius.
Now, that had been cool for you since you were a professional musician playing harp and stuff like that. You had to have connected with him on a musical level because you're a trained classical harpist and you knew how to read music and you understood that language that he was talking about.
Yes, and, that was, obviously the initial attraction for me to MTV. It wasn't like it was later after it started that, it was more TV people that wanted to be on this thing, for the exposure. It wasn't about that for me. It was definitely about being able to work among, not among, but work among musicians, but work that my primary topic was music. That's what it was. It wasn't so much, the being on television part. It was the music part. And you're absolutely right. I started playing music when I was 4. That's all I ever wanted to do. It was a musician and then acting, like when I was 7 or 8. But I was just talking to somebody recently about this. I don't know how it came up, but, if I looked at my soul, I think they asked the acting music thing, And my soul is a musician. It's not an quote-unquote actress. I mean, yeah, I liked acting, but I liked like more stage stuff and the more serious stuff, not like the necessary, Hollywood sitcom stuff. That wasn't really my thing. But yeah, so that was, and with Brian, and ironically, one of the jobs I worked at, like I said, at Solid Gold, David Leaf worked there. He was one of the producers, and David Leaf was the guy that wrote the book on Brian Wilson and had known Brian for years, so it kind of worked out, kind of unusually. But, when I talked to David about that, he said that's what Brian is. He's an innocent. He is a true innocent. And David knows him. I mean, they're friends. I mean, close friends, probably his closest friend. And, that purity, and then just to have dealt with, with his dad and all that kind of stuff, but to have the sounds that he had in his brain, it just amazing. So I guess it's a very long answer to your question. It was, let's put it this way, the antithesis of Zappa, Yeah,
it's too bad that you didn't have the...
I would also tell Zappa at this time with my musical appreciation, your music sucks. No, but you overblown. No, I'm just kidding. I'm inventing something that I should have done 40 years ago.
But it's like you don't know how to react around this guy. And especially since you said it was live, it's like, oh my God, I'm being attacked. How do I handle this?
Oh, it was awful. I had like this beautiful poncho on that was from Argentina, handmade, that my manager's mother had given me, and I had that on. And he made fun of that. He got on his knees and pulled his shirt over his body, like he was this little midget, type of Frank Zappa, this little, I mean, just.
And he's the one that we can't blame drugs or alcohol on.
No.
so that was the real him coming out the whole time.
Maybe that was the problem. Not that I'm pro-drugs, but, that could have, maybe he could have.
He needed to mellow out, have a joint and mellow out for a bit.
Yeah, give him some pot,
Well, he was probably, from that background of, music, you can't make it visible like that. It's something you've got to see. And he probably put up a really strong resistance to the whole MTV attitude, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
that doesn't excuse his behavior.
be. I mean, there was another one I just read recently. I'm trying to think what book. I'm always reading books, and God, I can't remember. But there was an instance I read just recently about him doing something very, very similar to somebody else. I don't know. I just think it was. And then who shows up to be on the channel years later? Moon and Dweezil.
Yeah. It became big stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let it go. Let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah. And moving on.
Let it go.
Take it off.
Let it go. Nina, you really impressed me in so many different ways. I mean, for one, I heard that you graduated high school at 14. What the hell?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, it says that somewhere in one of your bios that you graduated high school at 14.
Yeah, not one that I wrote. No, I did graduate early. It could have been what they might have. I mean, I could have graduated at 15, but I never told anybody that because I had enough credits. Oh, I was missing 2 credits. Actually, I could have graduated early, and I ended up just staying the senior year and did 2 credits. But I was also working. It was kind of like I wasn't called part-time student, but it was like a part-time student because I only needed 2 credits. So no, I didn't. I did graduate younger, but that's because I started younger because of my birthday's in September.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
but that's pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, there's there's stuff. I never Google myself. Yeah, I never Google my stuff, but sometimes I hear from my friends who are like this. I go, no, that's not true.
Yeah. Well, good setting the record straight.
Yeah. I couldn't find anything bad on you.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything bad on you either, so that's good.
So you're clean out there.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
I know this. There's one that and like Seinfeld, not that there's anything wrong with it, but there's one that a friend of mine told me about, and she's a good friend, and she's going, oh, come on, you can really tell me. Mi corazón. He was, the closest person to me in my life, and his name was Kelly. Lived in L.A. Kelly passed away 5 years ago now, unfortunately. But somebody got a hold of the fact that, my partner, my companion, I don't like using the word boyfriend, but, my buddy, was named Kelly, and they made it into the fact that I was a lesbian. It's like, it's like I said, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's like, and talking on how, I had gotten a divorce and then I turned to women, and it's like, what? And then my friend Anne, who is a wonderful writer, she's a fiction writer. She's writing to me, saying, "Oh, you can really tell me, Nina." I'm going, "Anne, knock it off." But her imagination's going because she's a writer, she's an author. Yeah. I'm going to. Well, I would tell you. Stop it. God.
It must have been insane for you because you're kind of like a shy, reserved person, but you're an actress and you're a musician and you knew how to get in front of a crowd and
yeah.
that. But when MTV took off, that must have just flipped your head, just like, oh my God, because you really couldn't go out and walk anywhere because you were a big star also.
Well, at hindsight, I'm so thankful that there wasn't social media.
Yeah.
Back then, because I would have been Britney Spears. You would have seen me shaving the head and, just losing it. I would have been locked up. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to handle that at all. I didn't generally have problems. Like, New Yorkers are pretty cool. They're not like, oh boy. But, when all of us would go over, like just over to Jersey for a concert, we'd get mobbed. We were sitting in the seats, and they finally, oh, poor us, had to give us a box there, we used one of the, the owner's boxes that they have at, it used to be the Brendan Byrne Arena, but at sports arenas, where the shishi money people hang out, because it was the security couldn't handle the crowd. So they said, well, if you want to have concerts, you're going to have to sit up there. What a shame. Hors d'oeuvres and open bar, it really was a drag. It's like, we want to be with the people,
Yeah.
We kind of like that, being up in those boxes.
What about going to like a town like Pocatello, Idaho, or I don't know if you went there, or El Paso, or just just in the mid country? What was that?
Yeah,
like?
Well, in like San Antonio, that was the first time that I really realized, the effect that we had. They would send us out on personal appearances in record stores like bands, and they sent me to San Antonio, and the car comes to get me, the limo. We get to the mall, and there's this line wrapped all around the mall. And I said, to my minder who was with me, I just said, what's going on? And they go, you. It's like, what? And I said, can you just drive around? I had the guy drive around a little while so I could, like, kind of compose myself. It's like, really? Wow. So, but really, I don't have any... like I said, social media, it would have been a whole other ball game. I mean, you still had, a sense of privacy. I don't ever remember it being like that uncomfortable. And at events, I was a big one for just sitting in the corner. I'm not a party person or anything, so I kind of, or sneak out, or, I was one of the few people that took a lot of trips to the bathroom, but not to use substances. It was to hide,
Collect yourself.
But it was, for New York, living in New York and being visible, we really did. We had, the key to the city, if we wanted to go anywhere. I'm kind of sorry I didn't really use it more than I did. Like, why didn't I go to musicals when I could have, but our job took up all our time, really. But, I'm thinking, I could have gone to any Broadway show I wanted. Why didn't I do that? It's like...
Well, they were saying, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to go to a Broadway show? You're Nina Blackwood at MTV.
Yeah. When, like, there's whoever in town, be, 3-4 acts all the time playing,
Well, you had the sense of style and, for the 80s, and you were just a perfect part of MTV. And I hope that it was, in retrospective, just good. And I'm sure that that's the way you see it, and you're grateful for that. But, the way that it turned out, I guess, not so thankful.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. They have, there was some, I saw an ad on one of the channels, one of the cable channels that I was watching a show on, advertising another show on MTV. There was some crime thing, a real crime show. I just saw that.
Works for CBS.
It's like some, really like a real, reality crime show. It's like, really?
Kids who do crime.
I don't know. And the teenage, whatever it's called, the teenage mom.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know I was pregnant.
Yeah, right. It's like, I don't, stop the whole thing rather than to continue like that.
Right. MTV was part of like a whole second wave of British music. And like you had mentioned earlier in the interview, the record companies over there kind of prepared video so that you had them at your disposal. So I guess, because of that, they got a lot of extra rotation, and that changed, I think, how radio was perceived and live concerts and all that kind of stuff. It really had a significant impact.
Well, if you don't mind me asking you something, Rita, because you were in radio, how did you, I don't think I've actually asked anybody this before, so I don't think I've had the opportunity to. How did it affect you in radio, because you were music director when I was living in LA, and then PD also? Were you? Yeah. So, you're a good person.
Well, for me, to be honest with you, I kind of started out in 1980 at KZY in Anaheim, and it was like, okay, like I said, going to Chicago just for vacation to see Summerfest, and then having people show me how MTV, what's cable? It was just so foreign, so new. But then after that, it was like everything was MTV. This video is trending on MTV. And as far as like a radio person would go, well, that doesn't quite fit our format. And then you were like thrown into that kind of situation. And then there were times when I'd go to like Tommy Hadge's program director at KLOS in the 80s and just say, do you realize that MTV has the advanced single of Stray Cats, and we don't even have the single, and they're going to be showing that video for like several days, and we don't even have it? It's one of those things. It's like, it's part of what we do now. But
it kind of was a reverse in a way. You would have to play, whereas radio prior to that was ahead of the game. Now you had this little upstart, basically, like that.
But I think it allowed, at least when we were at KLOS, I know at the time K-Rock and so much of that was the new wave stuff, but it kind of gave us the opportunity to look a little bit past the rock that we were playing and look into things like The Alarm and The Cult and Berlin and some of those things that we might have been able to have played originally, but I think MTV helped push some of those bands into the rock area that we could play, which was really nice to hear.
Yeah, because, one of the things that KLOS is rock. I'm a rocker. I love rock. I also did like K-Rock, I got to say. Both of you were my favorites, and MTV was kind of a combination of them both. And at first, though, heavier on the K-Rock side of things, the Adam and the Ants and, all that. So as a, rock, I would imagine that would have been a little tricky. But, like with Duran Duran's a perfect example, in the mid of like Idaho or Iowa, whatever, these little mom and pop record stores, which don't even exist anymore, they'd have all these kids running in, going, I want Duran Duran. They go, ooh, and they'd have to get it from the record store, the record labels. It's kind of interesting.
Yep. Yeah.
It had to have taken some of the rockers by surprise, too, because I remember seeing, I think one of the first Tom Petty videos was You Got Lucky, and they're driving around in like that's some sort of space car and stuff like that. And it's like, what does that have to do with the song, I mean, Petty, turned that around. Everybody turned that around, and it became a big production of, the song. And I do remember also, what's number one MTV? Why aren't you guys playing it? And it's like, doesn't fit, but whatever.
Well, Tom Petty is my prime example. He was one of my favorite interviews. I love Tom Petty. But he is actually my prime example of an artist that really didn't want to do videos at the beginning, thought it was stupid, and then he turned it around, like you just said, and he had one of my favorite videos. He made it work for himself, and he was kind of cute in them. He had that little, his little attitude that he had that was very endearing, and he completely used it to his own advantage, despite the fact he hated it at the beginning,
Yeah.
Nina, it's time for the quick Fast and Furious bonus round. So now we're going to throw some quick questions at you. Ready to go? Okay, great.
No.
No, they're easy.
Now I'm nervous.
No, they're easy.
No, is the connection gone? I can't hear you anymore.
Test one. Nina, who would you want to meet that you've never met?
George Harrison.
Yeah.
Nice.
George.
You used to go to a lot of concerts. What was the most impactful concert that you ever went to? And I'm sure that you've seen quite a few.
Oh, jeez. I gotta say, I'm gonna go way back to the beginning. Probably the first rock concert I ever went to back in Cleveland, Ohio, which was The Who.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was the very first concert I got to go to, and between Keith Moon, and Roger Daltrey with those platform sneakers he used to wear, and doing the mic thing. Oh my God, really. So that's definitely the most impactful concert I ever went to, my very first one, The Who.
What was the first album you purchased? Or bought or stole or got?
All right, well, okay. There are two of them, and one is embarrassing because I was a very little girl. The Chipmunks. I love the Chipmunks. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I had it.
But the first one that I used my own money and went to the store and bought Meet the Beatles.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Okay. Very good. Very good.
But I still love the Chipmunks. You know, they made them more bratty, though. You know, they were a lot sweeter before.
Yes, they were.
Do you still play the harp a lot? Do you still play the harp?
Not a lot, but I do still play. I mean, that was my gig. And I thought when I moved to New York, I'd be able to do that, I'd be able to maybe get like a gig on the weekends or something. You know how Woody Allen used to sit in and, play his music. Yeah, and I thought, well, I could do that. Forget it. I mean, there was no time, there was no time to do that. So as far as playing professionally, I haven't in decades, decades. But I do still play, yes, and I'm still a musician. And I keep thinking I might buy a piano. I've been toying with that recently because I kind of miss, for some reason, I've been missing playing piano.
What is your coolest piece of memorabilia?
Ooh, that's okay. Well,
and can we have it?
Yeah.
Is it okay if it doesn't have anything to do with MTV?
Sure,
absolutely.
But I'm looking at it. It was when I was on the Peak in Denver, Colorado, and did this race. I drove race cars, and there's little Formula cars, the small ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I have it right in my hands right now. And I was going up against some professional drivers. And I had just had a long-distance quarrel with the aforementioned Kelly. And I was in a really bad mood. And I drove like a maniac. And I won. And I had...
You won.
I won. Yeah, the guys, the drivers, and I don't remember their names, but they were professional guys. And one of them came up to me, and he was pissed. And he's like, he goes, "You're a maniac." He said, "You're crazy," because they were trying to smash me, up against the wall. And I was so, my adrenaline, I was so upset about this argument that I had just had that it's like, fuck you, and I won. So I love my trophy. It's up to my thigh. Awesome. It's huge.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's Colorado Speedway, #1 winner. So that's my absolute favorite memorabilia.
That's cool. That's nice.
Yeah.
What would you say to your 18, 19-year-old self now?
Believe it or not, nobody's ever asked me that, so I don't know. God. Oh, my God, this is a lightning round. Forget it.
I guess it's not really. It's that philosophical round. Sorry.
You can take
I slipped.
Jeez.
Stay away from Zappa.
Yeah. If you see Zappa, go the other way.
No. What's your answer?
Jeez, I wow. Maybe I guess it would be to be a little more, I think, self-assured within myself. I think maybe that would be it, because, like I said, I was pretty shy. Although now that I'm not, I don't like that quality. I don't like being more, in a way. I don't like being... I look back and I go, she was such a sweet girl. What happened? But, maybe that, like maybe speaking up for myself a little more than I did. That's probably it.
Sweet, nice girls grow up to drive race cars and become #1.
I know, God, if you could see it, I you should have seen this guy's face. I mean, he was livid. He's like, "You're a maniac." It's like, hey, I won.
Making up for all the parking on the 405.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
anything that you want to promote coming up that we should look for you on or just listen to? Or
yeah, just basically, the Sirius XM. I'm on daily, different times. So they can go to Big 80s on 8 webpage. We've got the podcast. And then my syndicated shows, through United Stations Radio Networks. That's basically it, and just to be good to animals. I mean, I'm a big animal rights person, and that is the most important thing, really. In my life is animals and the environment, and just for people to really, really think before they start destroying stuff, and be good to animals, and just think, and I could go on about that, but I won't get on my soapbox. But that's the main thing we need. We have not done a very good job of being caretakers of this planet, and that upsets me very much. We could do something about it, and too many people choose not to. So I think that's my main thing for people.
Nice, nicely said.
Thank you so much for
thank you, Nina,
and that you do, and for speaking with us. You're very well spoken, and I love and respect you, and just continued blessings for you that you continue to enjoy all the good that life is.
Rita, I really, again, I think the world of you, and I completely flattered, that you asked. It was one of those interviews that said, oh, geez, I got to do an interview. It's nice somebody. I was like, yay, I get to talk to Rita. So thank you.
We appreciate
and say hello to anybody that you might think that I might want to, if you're still Mark and Brian. Those low life.
Contact with them. Jim Ladd still.
Jim's on Sirius XM.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, Jim's great.
So,
I love. He's another one, the real deal.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. All right.
Thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful to talk to you.
Appreciate it.
Well, for me too, and bless your hearts and be safe. Stay safe.
Thank you. You too.
I'm giving you a hug. Hold still. All right, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye for now.
Okay.
Blessings.
Nina is just such a nice, wonderful, warm person. Really wonderful talking with her and, getting to know her. And, we've known each other, through the industry and stuff, but, never really had time to sit down and talk like this.
She totally fan geeked out at you. So how nice is that?
Did she?
Yeah. She totally loves you.
I don't notice.
See, because you didn't listen to the show either.
No, I did, but I just put all that stuff back in the.
I know you got your job to do, and you do it, and put that stuff aside.
But Nina is just amazing and awesome. Thank you so much, Nina, for being who you are and being a person of integrity. That means a lot to me. Means a lot to that guy over there at CW as well. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to take our call. The best place to follow Nina is on Facebook at Nina Blackwood VJ. You can catch Nina on I Want My 80s podcast, and that is on Sirius XM on the 80s channel.
And Nina's other show is the Big 80s on 8, and that can be found on Sirius. And another show is Nina Blackwood's Absolutely 80s, which can be found at unitedstations.com. So we'll put all these links on our website if you want to go to her page, and you can find them all and make it much easier than trying to explain it all. And also, we didn't get to talk about it, but she does have a book that she wrote with 4 of the other VJs called VJ, The Unplugged Adventures of MTV's First Wave. You can find that on Amazon or your favorite bookstore.
Also, go to our website to check out our show notes. There you can find interesting notes on subjects that were talked about in today's show, including some cool videos featuring Nina in her early days on MTV. And then after she left there, she was like, big TV star for Entertainment Tonight and all those kind of shows and so forth.
We also welcome our new listeners wherever you are, and that includes India, believe it or not. if they speak English.
Love you, India.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to the podcast. It's very simple. And also share social media with your favorite rock and roll friends. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, but CW doesn't get to Twitter very often, so I don't really talk about that one. Okay. Yeah, because just don't. And Reitz, how about trivia question?
The trivia question. In 1987 at the MTV Video Music Awards, one artist broke the record and still holds the record for winning the most amount of awards for the night. Who was the artist and how many awards did they win? Peter Gabriel won 10 awards, including Video Vanguard Award and Video of the Year for his video Sledgehammer, holding the VMA record for the most moon persons in a single night. That was the great part of MTV, where you can, okay, well, this song has nothing to do with this video, but this video is just so entertaining, and a great song though too. But great album that he had and a great tour that followed that. And then ironically at the same time, Genesis, his former band, was hot on the charts too at MTV, and all this, and now they're getting back together.
Genesis, but not with Peter Gabriel.
Not with Peter Gabriel, yeah.
Was Phil playing at the same time Peter Gabriel at any point?
Yeah, playing the drums.
That's what I thought.
And then now on this upcoming tour, he's not playing drums. His son is, because he's had some physical things. So he basically just stands and sits in a chair, stands and sits in his chair. So, but his son plays.
That's cool.
So,
yeah, look forward to it.
Along with Mike Rutherford and
Tony Banks.
Tony Banks.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you soon.
Have yourself a wonderful week.
Take care now. Bye.